Steelers fans, you need to stop what you're doing right now, because what just came out of OTAs is absolutely massive. This isn't just another off-season practice story. We're talking about a complete transformation happening inside the Steelers organization. And if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss the beginning of something special. Make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because we're breaking down Steelers news every single day. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Okay, so let's talk about what just went down during the Steelers' organized team activities. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this could be the most important development of the entire offseason. Forget the individual players for a second. Forget the position battles. What we're witnessing here is a complete cultural revolution happening in Pittsburgh, and it all starts with the new head coach, Mike McCarthy. Now, when McCarthy was first hired, there were plenty of skeptics, right? People questioned whether he was the right fit. They wondered if he still had what it takes to lead a championship contender. But what's coming out of the Steelers facility right now is painting a completely different picture than what a lot of people expected. Multiple sources connected to the organization are saying the same thing. The atmosphere is different. The energy is different. The entire approach is different. Let me explain what I mean by that. Under the previous coaching regime, the Steelers had a certain way of doing things. It was familiar. It was consistent. But maybe, just maybe, it had become a little too comfortable. Sometimes organizations need a wake-up call. Sometimes they need someone to come in and shake things up. And that's exactly what McCarthy appears to be doing right now. The reports coming out of these OTA sessions describe practices that are moving at a blistering pace. There's no standing around. There's no wasted motion. Every single minute is being maximized within what the league rules allow. Players are constantly engaged. The coaching staff is incredibly detail-oriented. Everything is intentional. Everything has a purpose. And for a franchise that's been searching for that next level, this kind of intensity could be exactly what they needed. Think about it from the player's perspective for a moment. When a new coaching staff comes in, there's always an adjustment period. New terminology, new playbooks, new expectations, new coaching voices. It can be overwhelming. But what makes this situation so fascinating is that many people around the league believed the Steelers desperately needed exactly this kind of shakeup. After years of doing things one way, maybe it was time for a fresh approach. Maybe it was time to challenge the comfort zone. Now, while the cultural shift is getting a lot of attention, there's another storyline developing that's equally important to understand. During these OTA practices, the defense has clearly been ahead of the offense. And before Steelers fans start panicking, let me explain why this is actually completely normal and nothing to worry about. Across the entire NFL, defenses are almost always ahead of offenses during the early stages of the offseason program. Why? Because defensive systems are generally easier to install. You're teaching techniques, assignments, and reactions. Offensive systems, especially with a new coordinator and new quarterback, require tremendous chemistry, precise timing, and seamless communication between multiple moving parts. That stuff takes time to develop. So yeah, there were some turnovers during these practices. There were tipped passes, there were interceptions, there were missed opportunities and mistakes. But here's the thing. This is exactly when you want those mistakes to happen. You want them in June during OTAs, not in September during a critical division game. The entire purpose of these practice sessions is to identify weaknesses, correct errors, and build towards something better. And here's the really encouraging part that should have Steelers fans excited. Aaron Rodgers has been participating in nearly everything. Unlike last year when there were questions about his availability during certain portions of the offseason program, Rodgers has been locked in. He's been working with his teammates. He's been building that chemistry. He's been putting in the reps that are going to pay dividends when the games actually matter. That work ethic matters more than people realize. When you have a quarterback of Rodgers' caliber who's fully committed to the process, fully invested in building relationships with his receivers, his tight ends, his running backs. That's when special things can start to happen. Those connections don't develop overnight. They require hours and hours of repetition. And Rodgers is putting in that time right now. Now let's talk about what Mike McCarthy's offense is actually going to look like, because this is where things get really, really interesting. A lot of people, myself included, assumed that McCarthy would bring the same pass-heavy, spread-it-out approach that we saw during parts of his time with the Dallas Cowboys. We figured the Steelers were going to air it out, throw the ball 40 or 50 times a game, and rely heavily on Rodgers' arm talent. Well, apparently, we were completely wrong. And honestly, I love being wrong about this because what's actually happening is way more exciting for Steelers fans. Instead of copying what worked in Dallas, McCarthy appears to be building something specifically designed for the AFC North. This is going to be a physical, smash-mouth, ground-and-pound style offense built around heavy personnel packages. What does that mean? Multiple tight ends, multiple running backs, big offensive linemen, a dominant running game, the kind of offense that looks at the Baltimore Ravens, the Cleveland Browns, and the Cincinnati Bengals and says, "We're going to beat you at your own game." The kind of offense that wants to control the line of scrimmage, impose its will, and dictate the terms of engagement. And when you start looking at the personnel the Steelers have assembled, it becomes obvious they've been planning this for a while. Let's start with Darnell Washington. This kid is an absolute monster. Some people still view him as just a blocking tight end or a secondary option, but that's drastically underestimating what he brings to the table. Washington is massive. He's strong. He's an elite blocker, but he's also a legitimate receiving threat who creates matchups that defenses absolutely hate dealing with. Think about what Washington allows the offense to do. When he's on the field, the defense has no idea what's coming. Is it a run? Is it a play-action pass? Is he going to demolish a linebacker at the point of attack or release into a route and go catch a touchdown? That uncertainty is a nightmare for defensive coordinators. And when you pair Washington with Pat Freiermuth, who's already proven to be one of the most reliable pass-catching tight ends in football, you've got one of the most versatile and dangerous tight end duos in the entire league. Freiermuth gives Rodgers a security blanket in the middle of the field, a guy who can move the chains on third down, a guy who can work the seams and find soft spots in zone coverage. Together, Washington and Freiermuth create endless possibilities for how McCarthy can attack defenses. But wait, it gets even better. The Steelers are also planning to use fullback Riley Leonard Nowakowski in meaningful situations. When's the last time you heard about a team actually featuring a fullback in their offense? It feels like we've gone back in time to old-school Steelers football, and I'm here for it. Nowakowski can lead block for the running game. He can catch passes out of the backfield. He adds another layer of physicality and versatility. Add in 2 running back sets. Add in jumbo packages with extra offensive linemen. Suddenly, the Steelers have an offense with so many different looks, so many different personnel groupings, that defenses are going to be completely confused before the ball is even snapped. This isn't about spreading the field and relying on finesse. This is about power. This is about toughness. This is about making defenses submit. While the offense continues to develop and work through those early growing pains, there's a fascinating battle happening at the backup quarterback position that's starting to generate some serious buzz. Will Howard is apparently making a real push to become the primary backup behind Aaron Rodgers. Multiple reports indicate that Howard has been getting significant practice reps, and he's taking full advantage of those opportunities. Now, nothing is decided yet. Training camp will be the real test. Preseason games will determine the depth chart. But right now, at this moment, Will Howard has positioned himself as the frontrunner. And that raises an intriguing question. Could the Steelers have found their future quarterback while simultaneously building this new offensive identity under McCarthy? If Howard continues to impress and shows he can run this system effectively, Pittsburgh might have just solved 2 problems at once. Let's shift gears and talk about Roman Wilson, because this is a story Steelers fans have heard before. Every single offseason, reports come out about Wilson looking explosive during non-contact practices. And every single year, the question becomes whether that production will translate when the pads come on and the real football starts. By all accounts, Wilson has looked fantastic during OTAs. Explosive, confident, creating separation. There was reportedly one play where he connected with Aaron Rodgers on a deep touchdown that traveled over 70 yards through the air. Those are the kinds of highlights that get fans excited and create off-season hype. But Wilson knows, the coaches know, and the fans know that the real evaluation doesn't happen in shorts and helmets. It happens in Latrobe when training camp begins and the physicality ramps up. What's interesting about Wilson is the role the Steelers appear to be carving out for him. He's being used as a vertical threat from the slot position, a guy who can stretch the field, create explosive plays, and take the top off defenses. If Wilson can stay healthy and prove he can handle the physicality of real game action, he could become a dangerous weapon in this offense, especially with defenses forced to account for all the other talent around him. On the offensive line, there's a battle brewing at right guard. Spencer Anderson has apparently maintained his position with the first-team offense throughout the entire OTA period. That's significant. While the competition isn't over and training camp will bring new challenges, holding on to that starting role throughout the spring gives Anderson a legitimate advantage heading into the summer. The expectation is that Anderson will continue competing against Ryan McCollum and rookie Mason McCormick once camp begins in Latrobe. But as of right now, Anderson controls his own destiny. If he performs well, avoids major mistakes, and continues to show he belongs, that right guard spot could be his on opening day. Now, while the offense is getting a lot of attention, some of the most exciting developments might actually be happening on the defensive side of the ball. And this is where things get really fun for Steelers fans who love watching elite defense. Patrick Graham is preparing to make this defense far more deceptive than what we've seen in recent years. One of the biggest tactical changes involves using two high safety looks before the snap. For opposing quarterbacks, this creates massive uncertainty. When you show two safeties deep, the offense has to respect both the run and the pass. But what coverage is actually coming? Is it really too high? Will one safety rotate down? Is it man coverage disguised as zone? Is it a blitz package disguised as coverage? That hesitation, that split second of doubt, can completely disrupt an offense's timing and rhythm. In today's NFL, where everything happens so fast, forcing a quarterback to hesitate is a huge advantage. Now, traditionally, playing two high safeties can create vulnerability against the run because you're taking defenders away from the box. But Pittsburgh appears to have the perfect solution to that problem. His name is Jalen Ramsey. At this stage of his career, Ramsey might not be the same lockdown corner who shadowed #1 receivers all over the field. But what he still brings is elite football intelligence, outstanding tackling ability, physicality, and incredible instincts. Those traits make him perfect for the big nickel role that's becoming increasingly important in modern NFL defenses. This position demands a rare skill set. You need to be strong enough to help against the run, physical enough to take on blocks, willing to tackle, but also athletic enough to cover receivers in the slot and handle pass coverage responsibilities. Very few players can do all of that at a high level. Ramsey can. That versatility allows Pittsburgh to stay in deceptive defensive structures without getting gashed in the running game. And when you look at the rest of the secondary, the possibilities become even more exciting. Joey Porter Jr. and Dante Jackson give the Steelers two perimeter corners who can play aggressive man coverage. That combination unlocks so many different defensive calls and coverage schemes. Picture this. An opposing offense lines up against the Steelers. Before the snap, they see two safeties deep. The quarterback tries to identify the coverage. Then the ball is snapped. Suddenly, everything changes. One safety rotates down. Ramsey shifts into a different assignment. The corners lock onto receivers in press coverage. A linebacker shoots a gap. What looked like one coverage becomes something completely different. That's the kind of confusion Graham wants to create on every single snap. And the deception doesn't stop with coverage. It extends directly to the pass rush. Graham has built his entire reputation on creative pressure packages and disguised blitzes. And the Steelers have the perfect personnel to execute that philosophy. Patrick Queen can blitz, Peyton Wilson can blitz, Jalen Ramsey can blitz, Deshaun Elliott can blitz. The Steelers have impact players at multiple positions who can threaten offenses from different angles and create chaos. That creates endless possibilities. An offense might think pressure is coming from one side, only to get hit from the opposite direction. A linebacker might look like he's blitzing and then drop into coverage. A defensive back might show coverage and then become an extra pass rusher. The uncertainty alone can wreck an offensive game plan. And there's one player who could benefit tremendously from all this creativity: Peyton Wilson. Everything we're hearing suggests Wilson is taking on increased responsibilities within the defense. His communication role is expanding. His athletic ability seems perfectly matched for a system that values versatility and aggression. The Steelers might be preparing to unleash him in ways we haven't seen before. And if that happens, this defense could become one of the most unpredictable and dangerous units in the entire NFL. Steelers fans, this is shaping up to be something special. A new culture, a physical offensive identity, a deceptive and aggressive defense. We're witnessing the beginning of a new era in Pittsburgh, and I cannot wait to see how this all comes together when the season starts. Make sure you're subscribed because we're going to be covering every single development as this team continues to build towards something incredible.